everybody. Welcome to another episode of Haunt Talk. Me and Kim took a little excursion the previous weekend that you're watching this to Cincinnati. Now, we've went to Cincinnati before, but we wanted to try some different haunts. In today's video, we will be reviewing Wilmington Haunted Hollow. And we also went to Dent. We've been to Dent before, and then also Sandyland Acres. So look forward to Dent and Sandyland Acres. But right now, it's Wilmington Haunted Hollow time. So one of the big things that they're known for, we're going to just give you a little sneak peek of what we're about to talk about, is it's like a hayride, but instead of a hayride, it's a school bus that has the top just cut off. And they drive you around in that through the woods. And yeah, it's interesting.
It's a thing.
It's a thing. They also do offer, 3 other little haunted attractions.
Yep.
As well. So there's like 2 houses and a trail. So that is what we're going to be talking about. Yeah. So we're going to get right into it. But of course, that means we got to refer to the Book of the Dead. Book of the Dead. Book of the Dead. Book of the Dead. All right. So as always, we are going to start off with sets and props. Now, if you're unfamiliar with the way they review things, I know some places we'll review each attraction. We kind of just lump it all together and tell you an overall score of the overall event. But you can purchase tickets for it separately, so we will kind of talk about what we think is maybe the best. But yeah.
All right. So like we said, when you get there, there's 4 attractions. The big draw is the bus ride thing.
Which, yeah, you could tell because the line for this thing was crazy.
Yeah.
We ended up buying fast passes. We wanted to go to Terrortown this night because it's not that far. However, traffic ended up being terrible, and we were almost 2 hours late to Wilmington, and we could have made it in time, but we were so tired. We didn't get out till 11, so maybe eventually we try. We've said so many times we're going to go to Terrortown, and we never get to go to Terrortown. But, yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, you get on this thing, and again, the line's crazy, so we got our fast passes, we get on the bus, and, yeah, I'm like, this is just so, it's just so weird. I don't know, I've never got on anything, well, that's kind of a lie, because Kim had not been to it. This attraction no longer exists. I can't remember the name. I don't even know if we ever did a review on it in before times. I know it was in Wampum, PA, but it was a cave. And you walk through the cave, and then the end section, you would get on it. It wasn't a full school bus, it was a mini school bus. And they would, drive you around in the cave on this half-chopped-off school bus, little mini school bus. And some things would happen, not a whole bunch, but, it was why am I on this bus in a cave? So it was kind of cool. I wish that place would reopen, because it was, open for 2 years. But it's the only thing I've been on that's similar to that. But anyways, you get on the bus.
You get on the bus, and it is very, kind of like a hayride where they drive you around and show you some scenes and stuff like that. It was kind of surprising because they do hop onto the side and inside the school bus.
Which, yeah, we're talking about actors, but that was because, they told us, don't put your hands on the bus or your hands will get trampled on. And I'm like, there's, this, because they do have, it's piping that they cut in half.
Yeah,
and
the plastic tubing stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So, the first thing you kind of went through was a cemetery, which there's quite a bit of stuff in the cemetery. It was lit pretty nice. Oh, there was a really derpy dragon. That was, the first thing you see.
Yeah, that was kind of
Kind of concerned me a little bit when I saw it. I'm like, oh, no. But,
oh.
I'm like, 'cause it was pretty derpy looking. But it got better after that. It wasn't, yeah.
It got better.
They actually had some cool-ish, animatronics and props back there. They did have a Michael Myers scene. They had a Camp Crystal Lake scene. I do think there was actually, there was, water and stuff. It did look like a little swamp that I think that shack was on, if I'm remembering right. Mm-hmm. There were a ton of, shacks back then, with, a ton.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's weird because, you'd see some, way off in the distance, and I kind of thought that we were going to go there, or maybe it was a part of a different attraction that we'd get to later, because we did this first. But no, they were just kind of back there.
Yeah, just kind of
maybe just for scene setting, because they even had actual torches lit back there.
Yeah.
So I kind of thought that was interesting. But yeah, so that was cool. The voodoo, they had, in the the voodoo area, they had a Jaws prop, which I've seen. It's I think the same prop they have at 100 Acres Manor.
Yeah, I think it was the same Jaws. Yeah.
In other places, I'm sure. So they have him come out, and it's a puppet. One thing that was really cool is they have, because, one thing I want to mention is the terrain for this thing is crazy.
Oh my gosh.
There's a few times where I'm like, is this bus going to be able to make it up this hill? Because you're like, and I'm like, oh my lord.
Like at one point we go down this hill, and we're also kind of leaning to the right, and I'm just like, I'm looking ahead, and we're going up that hill also, and I'm like, is this gonna make it?
So the ride itself, and I mean they do it all the time, so it's fine. But like the ride itself can be a little bit nerve-wracking because you're like, okay. There's a cool spot. There's a cool part where you go into like a mine, and something else that I found really weird is there's a lot of like structures you drive in, but the ceilings are so low, it's freaky.
Yeah, because even the guy that was on the security guy or whatever that was on our bus, he said, "Watch your heads."
Yeah.
And we're like, "What?" And then we look and we're like, "Ooh, shit."
Oh yeah, because there were some people like. Me and Kim didn't really need a duck, but it made you kind of, especially the mine, and it's effective. Yeah. There weren't really actors in there, but it's creepy. There was just like wispy music playing, and there's like, well, we'll get to that in a sec, but there's like TV screens that had like skeletons, like ghostly skeletons, and that's like, it was real dark, and you know, you're just going down this hill, but unfortunately, one of the TVs had like switched to the DVD player screen.
Yeah.
So it really kind of took, I mean, all those things happen, but I'm just like, aw.
Yeah,
like,
it was kind of funny.
Because it was like this really creepy scene where you're like, oh, and you're like, huh.
Default.
Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, they actually had a Helltown scene, so that was cool.
Yeah, that was funny.
We liked the Helltown scene, and it was like it was kind of like an old Western town almost.
Yeah, because the mayor came onto the bus, and of course he was, you know, Satan-y.
Yeah.
Looking.
And so I think the thing that this is most known for, because right on the website it says like home of the flaming semis, and now we've been to haunts where they chase you like with the tractor, like Cheeseman's Fright Farm does it, and some other ones. There's most haunted hayrides have like a thing where something comes after you, might chase you a little bit. I don't know if I've ever been, not jump scare terrified, but just so scared on a haunted attraction in my life than I was during the dual flaming semi chase. So we were on the right side, so like there's your right and your left. The one semi was right behind, and I couldn't really see what it was doing, and then there's one, so all of a sudden the school bus just like floors it.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, and you see the semis, I'm like, okay, here come the semis. But I mean, we're booking it, because there's like, most of it's in the woods, but this part is like, it's kind of more and more like solid flat ground.
Yeah, it was like a big field, like a big solid field.
Yeah, kind of field thing. And this semi, man, because like, it kind of looked like we were on flat, and this was angled a little bit.
Yeah, he was angled up a little bit, so he was kind of leaning into us a little bit. And literally, I could have gone like this and touched the driver's shoulder.
Oh, I mean, like, oh, yeah.
That's how close they were to
I
us.
have no idea how they don't hit. I mean, it is at such a speed, it is crazy, because I don't know how, I mean, I'm sure it feels faster than it is, but I mean, you're booking it in the school bus, and I mean, in this giant semi, and it's going out, and then it's weaving in, and like, it's going to hit you, and it's up to the last second to the point where the whole semi tips at you. And you know, when it's spewing flames in the air, and it lasts for, I don't know how long that part lasts for, but it felt like a while.
It was
longer than I expected. It wasn't just like I'm done. It was like, no, he'd slide in, then go out, then slide in again. Probably did that like 3 or 4 times.
Yeah.
And then there's one in the back chasing us too. Like I said, I was so terrified by this one that I don't even know what that one was doing back there.
He was getting close, because I did look back to see, just because I was curious as to what he was doing. And he was like all the way out. He was at the back of the bus, and he was just kind of getting really close to the back and doing his flames and stuff like that too.
Yeah.
So.
And then right after that, there's like a clown scene. Nothing super remarkable there, but it's a clown scene. Kind of what you expect, like 3D clowns.
I did have to duck my head in there.
Yeah, that one, like, it gets
that
low. And at first I'm like, oh, it's like a pillar thing. No, it's wood that, like, slowly slants down. Yeah, you kind of have to duck, which I've never seen another, like, ride where they purposely make the ceilings in a way where, like, you kind of, like, have to duck down. It really makes you feel creeped out and claustrophobic.
Yeah.
And so then that was about the end of the ride. The Asylum. So then we went to, there's 3 other haunted attractions. I think it's just, like, the Asylum, Terror in the Dark, and Slaughter Hotel. I think the Asylum had like more of a name than...
It was Evil.
Yeah, Evil
Asylum. Yeah.
So this one is weird. It was not... There wasn't any actors in this one. And it was mainly just like almost a fun house.
Yeah.
It was kind of freaky though.
It was very freaky. Like the floor was strange. The walls were strange. It just was like...
You had to open doors.
Yeah.
And a lot of them opened towards you.
Yeah. Yeah, because like we get to the first part and we're like,
we reach a dead end,
where do we go?
I do think that the person up front, maybe they usually do, but didn't tell us, should be like, you will have to open doors, because like typically in haunts, like doors that open that way would be for an actor.
Yeah.
And so like we were pushing on things and nothing was happening, and there was like no actor in there with us. Maybe there usually is, and we're like, we don't know what to do. And then finally we figured it out, and then we, like, for the rest of it, we kind of knew.
Yeah.
So there wasn't a lot of, like, sets or props, but the whole thing was just wonky. There was a weird scene where you walk in, and you're in this big round cage, and there's big, what looked like barrels, like big barrels hanging from the ceiling.
Yeah.
Finally, we found out that one piece of the cage pulled towards us again. You just kind of have to grab and pull. And then these things were, like, giant, huge foam barrels.
Yeah.
And you had to push your way through them, and they would, like, clock you, like, because
they were heavy.
They were. I mean, they're foam, so they don't hurt when they hit you, but they'd kind of knock you back.
Yeah, because I'm just like, I guess we move these.
Yeah,
Like,
it was crazy. And then you get to this part that's like almost like a catacomb section, and it is so claustrophobic and tight.
Gosh,
like there's a lot of parts you have to turn like sideways, and it's like kind of hard to figure out where to go, and it gets really dark in spots.
Yeah, like I almost was afraid I was going to get stuck in some of these spots.
It was
Because,
freaky, and you
I'm
had to
a
duck.
plus size person, and it was like, okay. I guess
Yeah,
I'm
it
going
was tight.
sideways.
But it was actually quite a bit of fun, that one was. Like I said, there wasn't many. There was a couple rooms. I think there was like a dentist scene towards the end, and then there was like a chain link fence maze. And there were like a couple actors in there, which we'll talk more about in actors, but it was mainly a fun house.
Yeah.
Terror in the Dark was definitely the most lackluster. It was a trail that was kind of a corn maze. There was like a pallet maze. There was like I think you went through like just an old house that used to be out in the field.
Yeah, it seemed like they just kind of were like, oh, this house is falling apart. Let's put part of the haunted house in there and kind of walk through it.
So that was interesting. And then you walk through like a grass field or something. It's not really a corn maze, but then there's like a tubing you have to walk through, and then at the very end there's a school bus you have to go up and walk through.
Yeah, and that was a tight squeeze.
It's very tight.
I had to make sure I had everything that was in my pockets still, because I literally had to go like the space, and I'm not exaggerating, the space to get through was like this big.
In one of the spots, in one of the spots.
And I was just like, okay, I guess I'm squeezing through there because there's no place else for me to go.
So yeah, with that one, there wasn't much really there. It's really just walking in the dark and trying to figure out your way. Because there's a part that's in the woods, and there's just a rope, and it's like, I think there's a path because there's not much lighting back there. So that was kind of freaky. And then the last one we went to was Slaughter Hotel. Now this is by far the most detailed of the haunted houses. And it is themed. I don't even know if I'd say it's hotel themed. Like the entry is, but it's more like traditional haunted house themed.
Yeah,
I guess.
Traditional haunted house, I would say. Yeah.
But they had some pretty cool stuff in there. They had like this hallway you walk down that looked like the whole house was falling apart. Like pillars were falling down and stuff.
Yeah, that was really cool. There were some coffins in there and stuff.
Yeah.
There was another scene that was just like a really elaborate, like almost like a living room scene, but there was like an upstairs that like a balcony kind of area that was looking down at you. That was really cool.
There's the library, and like the bookshelves would like move and stuff. There was a scene that was like, it was like a coffin room, and it was cool because like as we were leaving it, there's a coffin, like just the end of a coffin in a wall, and it actually just comes out at you.
Like, it kind of surprised me because it didn't give me much room to get around it when it popped out. So that was actually really cool. And then there was some like up and down stairs and stuff like that. And even those areas were like kind of elaborate. Like, set up really pretty.
Which, that is something, well, there was that really cool mirror maze too. We'll talk about that first.
Yeah.
Because it was almost like set up like it was a mirror maze in a forest, because there were like what looked like trees, and there was like twigs, and it was like lit all blue and stuff. Which had one of our favorite actresses, which we'll talk about in actors, but she was really cool in there. But we have no idea what the hell these buildings are that you're inside of. It is the wildest thing, because like I don't know, because the Asylum, don't know. I think they were like shipping containers mixed with, because like they were on gravel for that. This one was mainly like carpeted floors. There's an upstairs section, but like I don't understand it. I don't know how to describe the way this stuff is put together, and I do not know what we were inside of, because I don't know. I really don't know.
Yeah, because like even looking on the outside, like most of them had like a facade on the front,
Yeah.
but like you look on the side and it was just like plywood kind of just randomly put in places,
And they weren't that short. The shortest one was
No.
8 minutes.
Yeah.
Of the 3, the Asylum we were in for 15 because it's kind of hard to get out of. And I'm like, if someone watches and you work there or have any idea what the hell are you in, I'm so curious to know like what this is that we're inside of. It was so unique. But yeah, overall for the most part we were kind of pleasantly surprised. Now I will say the haunts were, for the most part, besides the hotel, did feel a little bit fairground haunty, like
Yeah.
as far as because like the Asylum, like things did feel a little bit like rudimentary. You could tell that a lot of things were like recycled, but they made up for it by making it fun to go through though.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
by the way they designed this stuff and kind of forced you to explore, made up for it. And then of course the hotel actually had pretty cool scenes, and the trail didn't really do much for me.
Yeah. No.
That was definitely the weakest of all the attractions, but altogether, again, we lump everything together. We gave it an 8 for sets and props. Because there are 4 different attractions, that's going to by far be the longest section, but we're moving into actors now.
Yeah. So obviously our biggest complaint was they needed more. Like we said, when we walked through
Yeah.
Asylum, I think we might have encountered maybe 2.
2 or 3, there was not many in there. The most were definitely on the ride. And now that's what we were talking about. So yeah, so these things, these actors, they would jump up and like walk on the little bitty side.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and this thing, and it's not like it stopped. Most of the scene, I don't think this thing actually ever came to a complete stop. So this thing's like, the school bus is just driving up hills, and they're just somehow latched to the side.
Yeah. Like one guy, he actually jumped up and he was literally on my shoulder.
Oh, yeah.
At one point. He just leaped up. He's on that PVC piping or whatever the hell was on the side of the bus, and he's just leaning over. He's got his hand on the seat in front of me, and yeah, the bus is going like 10, 15 miles an hour, and he's just there.
Yeah.
Hanging on this bus or standing on this bus, and I'm just like, how are you still alive? Like, I don't
How are
understand.
you not falling off? Because
Yeah.
we're getting jerked around, and like, man, I assume they must do it a lot and like do a lot of
Yeah.
training maybe. I don't know, but it kind of was crazy. The actors on the ride by far impressed me the most as well,
Yes.
just because of the energy they had. I mean, like they would just leap up onto it, and they actually had some decent hiding spots. I think you got jump scared a couple times.
Yes, I did.
I was on the inside seat, so I didn't get as much because that's the bad thing about hay rides and stuff. That when like one person's inside, one person's outside. Usually the person on the outside is going to get the most scares. Now, if you're younger, you might get freaked out because when they board the wagon, or in this case bus, the actor can like more directly interact with you. But obviously, if this isn't a touch haunt, so I'm not really freaked out by someone getting in my face because I go to a million of them.
Yeah.
One of our standout guys. Now, me and Kim, we're not the biggest fan of children, as you may know, and we have a name for them. We like to call them crotch goblins. Well, the guy that was like this was like the first Satan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because there was numerous.
He gets up and he called one of the kids that was being a kid. He called him. I think he said like, "What do you want, you little crotch goblin?"
Yeah.
And then the kid said something else, and he used a term that I have not heard before.
Yeah. I'm kind of excited about this phrase because I might have to use it now. Sack seed.
Which is hilarious because the kid, this is a young kid, the kid's mom, sitting, like, she's not sitting with him, she's sitting with, like, the younger kid, and, like, I can only imagine, could you imagine if that
the
child is like,
drive
"Mom,
home.
what's a sack seed? Why did he call me that?" Hilarious. And he called him it, like, twice, too, which is so
Yeah.
funny to me. I mean, he was, like, right in his face screaming it at him, and I'm like, I love this. It made me happy
It
inside.
did make me happy.
Yeah. We also like the Helltown Devil guy. So 2 devil guys. He was really cool. He said something funny, but I don't know if I remember what it was.
Oh, yeah.
He made some kind of joke, and it was funny. I can't remember. But yeah, overall, there wasn't a lot of dialogue, but they did have high energy on the bus ride. We mentioned the Asylum only had 3. I don't really remember anybody, but the guy who was playing like the dentist or whatever, like he did. It was funny because when you leave the scene, you think you have to take a left, and which leads you right back into that scene because you have to open a door, but the door is actually behind the door you're opening, so it kind of forces you to go this, and then he gets you. And he's like, no, and he points you back, and then you turn around and see that, there's a door behind the door. So that was kind of cool. And then nothing really too much to talk about in the Terror in the Dark. There were a couple people that were outside. There was one guy that I know, I don't know if he actually scared us, but I don't know, he followed us around. I think told me he was going to cook me inside the house or something.
Yeah, he was in the kitchen, and he was pretty funny.
Yeah, so that was cool. But that was really the only guy I know there were more, but he's the only memorable one from the trail. And the hotel had a few. There's a plague mask guy who I thought was furniture. I thought he was part of the wall.
That's what he called him. Yeah. I thought you were furniture.
I meant wall, but yeah. And then there's a compliment. I meant like you were hiding well. I didn't know you were there, and you kind of freaked me out because when you moved, I'm like, oh.
Oh my gosh.
Our favorite one though was definitely Mirror Maze Girl.
Yeah, Mirror Maze Girl. She was dressed really pretty. She had like this elaborate, like kind of a wedding dress that was a little bloody, and she had like a cool veil on. And she was just kind of standing there being ominous for a while. And I actually looked at her. I'm like, oh, pretty. And as we're leaving, she starts screaming at us, and she's like, what
because when we were leaving, she was like, oh, you guys are leaving so soon. She's like, why are you leaving? And I'm like, well, I don't know. You don't never know what to say. I'm like, well, we're trying to continue. Yeah. And she was like, oh, and then all of a sudden she lets out this like demon scream. It was like guttural.
It was guttural.
It was like when you like watch one of those like bands like Spirit Box, and they sound like an angel, and then, like that. And just screaming at the top of her lungs at us, and all of a sudden she like starts like sobbing, and she's like, I'm so sorry, I was just kidding, please just come back. Yeah. And it was just really creepy because she's just like really in another room creepy. At this point, just screaming, like longing.
Don't
and I'm
leave
like,
me.
Yeah, because it was like deep, sorry. And I'm like, geez. So props to her. If she does that all night, you're not gonna be able to talk.
She has lots of cough drops.
There was a weird guy in the one upstairs like part. Let's call him Grandma Guy. He had like a prop, and he was telling us it was Grandma and that he loves her so much, but he slit her throat. Yeah. And I'm like, oh.
Oh, awkward.
Yeah.
Okay, Norman.
Yeah, and the coffin guy was fun too.
Yeah, the coffin guy was funny.
I don't remember what he said, but he was kind of like antagonizing us and following us around. He had a fun little like top hat and stuff. We liked the few actors that were there. It's just, in a lot of the stuff, they were just so sorely lacking on actors. Like I said, we did like those few, but I mean, we're talking over an hour of haunt here, and like, especially like in the actual haunt sections, there was just so few. We gave actors a 6 just because there just needed to be a lot more. Yeah. I honestly think like the Trail of Darkness could probably just be cut. But I mean, some people might like that kind of thing, but you really just walked around for like 15 minutes. It wasn't really a maze. Like there was like one or two things you could technically go the wrong way, but it was just kind of like walking on sketchy terrain in the dark for a while.
You know how much we love sketchy terrain.
But yeah, the ones that were there did do a good job though. Yeah. Let's see. So that moves us on to Scare Factor. Now this definitely felt like more of a family-friendly kind of ordeal. Very much.
There were quite a few kids, especially because of the hayride, bus ride thing.
There were some jump scares. Like I said, Kim got like jump scared like 2 or 3 times maybe on the ride. Yeah. The first 2 houses we went through, the first 2 walkthroughs, really nothing at all. And then we did get a couple in the hotel. The hotel is definitely the most intense of the walkthroughs. Not a lot of gore. The only thing that was like truly scary was the semi chase. Yeah. That really like just maybe it doesn't freak everyone out, but like I was just like it just got so close. It really just like really gave me an adrenaline rush. But of course, no touching. Overall we didn't find it very scary. We do think like this is a real good one actually to take. Like the family too. Yeah. Like if the people that don't want to get super scared, they're going to get a little scared. Obviously, it's a haunted attraction. Like this isn't being advertised as like a PG event, like I know that some are now. But I would say it's like easily, PG-13. Yeah. Like, just if you want to like a PG-13 movie, you can take a kid that's under 13, as long as you think they'll be okay with it. Same as this. It's not going to be anything crazy. So I think it's a good time. We gave Scare Factor a 5. It is pretty averagely scary, not super tame, but not crazy.
Yeah. So that brings us to value. So you can actually do different packages where you could just do the bus ride, or you could do the bus ride and the houses. So just to do the bus ride, it was $25. To do the ride and the houses, it was $40, and then to do VIP, which is basically like, you know, a shorter line for both things, was $60. It is cash only, which is kind of weird, but not the concession stands.
Yeah, that's the part that's weird, and that. So the concessions, maybe it's a different company, but it wasn't like a food truck. It looked like their own thing, like the basic hot chocolates, hot dogs, and stuff. They'll take card with a square reader, but they don't there, which I just don't understand why places do this. Like, yeah, I understand that square readers, if that's what you're going to use, charge more. Just let people know it's going to be like $1 or $2 more if you use card. Most people are okay with that, then instead of going to the ATM, withdrawing cash. They do have an ATM on site. Thankfully, Kim always has cash on her, so it's not a deal for us, because we usually, if we're not buying tickets ahead of time, we usually have cash just in case this happens. We look things up ahead of time. The ride took us 20 minutes. The Asylum took us 15. The trail also took us 15, and the hotel was 8 minutes. Yeah. So overall, you're getting pretty good value. 40's not super cheap, but you're getting like almost an hour's worth. Close to an hour's worth of haunt time in total if you do everything. 60 VIP is a little bit high, but of course VIP is optional, so we don't take that much into consideration for value. But we thought the value was pretty decent at 8.25 is what we gave that.
So that brings us to our overall score for this place, and we gave them a 7.5.
Yes. I do think this haunted attraction is pretty good. The main thing is there just was so low on actors the night we went, and I know that sometimes a haunt can't control that, but, you know, I mean, it is what it is. If the places were more elaborate, like the Asylum and the trail, it could have made up for the actors, but at the end of the day, like, the Asylum was fun to go through, but you're not really getting scared, you know. It's not advertised as a fun house, it's advertised as a haunted house.
Right.
I think, if anything, especially if you're a family friend and the kids, like, because I know when I was a kid, I was too scared to go to, like, walk through the things.
Yeah.
But I was okay with the riding thing. I think that the $25 for the bus ride is well worth it. Definitely, if you're in the area, do that. Because I think if I were to just rate the bus ride alone, I'd probably give it like an 8 or 8.5 because I think it's that unique and fun. Mm-hmm. But when you tie everything else into it, I think the houses, even though they were fun, besides the trail I didn't like, I didn't like that one. When you tie everything in, that's where we kind of get that 7.5 rating from, is because we're rating everything all together. But the bus ride through the woods is definitely the highlight here.
Yes, for sure.
I do recommend, if you're in the area of like Dent, it's only, I think, that's like 30-40 minutes away from Dent, very close to Tarrytown. If you're doing those, I definitely highly recommend that you check this place out, because we did have a lot of fun with it. And it is like, it does have that like old school, like on a farm Halloween vibe.
Yes.
Which is nice. Sometimes you don't always want to go to like a 10 haunted house. Sometimes you want like a more traditional, like old school kind of thing, because it kind of gives you that feeling of when you used to go to them as a kid.
Yeah.
So, you know, I mean, just because something has a slightly lower rating doesn't mean that it's bad per se. Now, obviously, if we give something like a 3 or a 4, which is very rare, now that maybe is bad. But like something like this, like sometimes, for example, you like watching a movie that's just good, not amazing.
Yeah.
Sometimes you don't always want to like be thinking when you watch a movie. You're like, I want to eat popcorn. I want to see someone get murdered. That's like the right. I mean, that's like the equivalent of this, you know. Yeah. That's like kind of how I look at that kind of thing. All right, but if you guys been there, what did you think about it? You know, no, let us know. Let us also know where you'd like to see us review. Also, make sure to check out our merch line. We're wearing our hoodies with our pumpkins on it that says Haunt Talk, and on the back it says Haunt Talk in Japanese. You can also get shirts, and bags and stuff. We recently sent these shirts to our patrons. If you'd like to become a patron and help support us, check out the links below. There's other like gifts and like little like things. If we get enough, we can do some like exclusive content. But overall, just help support us. Also, check out the Super Thanks button. It's a way to give us a tip if you want us to keep making videos like these. And all of those things are always in the links for the description below. And yeah, of course, as always, making sure you're liking and subscribing, and also make sure you ring the notification bell so you don't miss any of our upcoming reviews, because after this one, you should also be getting Dent and Sandyland Acres from this trip we just took, and we also plan on going to like Maryland area for Markov's Haunted Forest. We also plan on doing some of the Columbus ones here soon, so we have quite a few more reviews coming up, so you know where to go for the haunt season, and also just discuss the places, because it's fun to discuss places you've been with other people. So leave those comments down below. We like responding. We try to respond to all of them, as long as they're nice comments. I don't respond to people that are being goblins, but you know how that goes. But thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.
Bye.